For centuries, religion has set the rules, whether it was the Quran, the Ten Commandments, or the teachings of Buddha. These sacred texts have defined what is right, what is wrong, and what happens to those that don't follow along. But now more than ever, many people don't have a religion or don't believe in a god. So what happens when the old gods go silent? Can we create something new, something moral, something just? That's what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, like, I guess the first thing that we need to talk about is define what, I guess, morality is, right? And understand where our moral frameworks come from. So, as we mentioned, like, briefly, and as Sayenne just mentioned, right? Most of our moral frameworks actually come from religion, right? So, it comes from Christianity, the Quran, Buddhism, Hinduism. Um, and that's kind of what has shaped what is right or wrong in society, especially in the Western world. Even societies that are now considered like secular societies, which, like for example, France, which is a secular society, you can still feel like their history defining what is okay and what isn't okay currently in society. I don't know if you guys like what you think of that. Do you think that history and our religion has a direct correlation to defining our morality?
I definitely think there's a link, but I'm not sure if I can see it in France specifically.
No.
I actually feel like France
Really?
is, I mean, I know a lot of French people that don't like believe in, that aren't religious. Like,
Tell me the names.
honestly, like one of two people, French people I meet are probably not religious. So I feel like this country specifically is like very not unaffected, but wouldn't exactly be the right example for a society,
I was gonna say that's
at least
fair.
currently.
That's fair, but I think these countries that say or state that they're secular, like France, a lot of times have Christian, in this case, values. Like I remember that there was this thing when we were in high school about hijabs, that they didn't let people enter schools with. I mean, France enter schools with hijabs, but it was cool to enter with a cross. You know, with the.
Technically, it also wasn't,
But nobody said anything
but
about
because
that.
it's
Yeah.
much more discreet, yeah, people got away with it. But yes,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
guess.
All I'm saying is,
discreet
Fair
in the
enough,
sense
yeah.
that like the necklace you can
No.
hide it under your shirt
I get it.
and nobody will really know, and a hijab, like there's no way, like.
So you're saying
Yeah.
they were right?
No, I'm not saying. Whoa,
Get 'em
calm
canceled
down
off the
there,
bat.
buddy.
Hey, I'm willing to bet though half of like people don't even realize this religious significance behind it.
Behind what?
The hijab, like the actual significance behind it, they just associate it with like a culture, and I don't
Yeah,
think it's
that-
like really perceived that way. Yeah,
No, but my point is, it's just that, yeah, it's secular because you're not supposed to have anything, right? You're not supposed to have a hijab. You're not supposed to have a cross. But it's cool when you have one, not the other. It's just I feel like it's a double standard that has to go away if you truly want to be in a secular society. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I guess here we're going more into secularism and not
No, I know.
morality. And like the question is, do you think like do we inherit these values from our history, or now do we have the ability to choose these values and choose what makes something moral or immoral?
I don't know, bro. I still feel like I still I mean, we grew up. I mean, not really, but I grew up in a very Christian or Catholic country, Angola, right? And I still feel like a lot of the values come from religion. I can't think of any right now, but
No, I can. Like, for example, I think, well, Angola is not a secular country.
No, I know.
So, but I mean, it's not also, like, we don't base our laws off of the Bible
Yeah,
either.
supposedly, yeah.
Normally. But, like, I can see, like, the influence of, for example, like, in the Bible, there's this certain question of, like, purity, especially when it comes to women. And so, like, for example, a woman may be dressing quote unquote provocatively in Angolan society, that perception it simply comes from our inheritance of the Christian religion, you know. Now, bad or good, that's hey man, I guess you have to choose a society, but I don't think we currently chose to be this way. It was just we inherited these values, and and the opposite. Like I mentioned something negative, but there are also positive things that I do believe that the Angolan society has inherited from religion, as like love thy neighbor. I think that that's something that we do practice heavily in Angola and in many other African countries where we're a bit more compassionate and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think that we enter what you called like the virtues, or like I forgot the word, but I think those are just common things that as humans we have, and those we know are moral. Like you should be empathetic, you should treat others kindly, and those are just things that I don't think necessarily come from religion. They're just a human thing because we're social beings, and to live in a society you need those, you know, or else you'd probably be excluded from the group. And even thinking like in a primitive way, I think if you don't treat people kindly, you're just kicked out from the group. And historically speaking, if you're separate from the group, you're probably not surviving.
Yep.
But yeah, I don't know if you have anything on that. No, you're boring as hell.
What do you think is the biggest difference between like a society that comes from like a secular belief system and a religious belief system, like in practice?
I don't know. I think today there's not much of a difference anymore. We're so globalized that even thinking.
I disagree.
Really, I'm thinking about. I'm comparing like friends to. Let's say, I mean, I guess Dubai is very developed, but it's still very.
No, but I was gonna say you look at like Qatar and Doha, like they go under Sharia law. Like for example, that's like the opposite of I guess France or the Netherlands.
But when you
stuff
think
like
about, I guess I'm thinking like in the day to day, what actually changes, and I guess for women it does change a lot.
No, but even for men, like you go to like the Middle East. A man won't be approaching a woman on the street, like even how they will interact with people, how they will interact with their family and stuff like that. What will be judged as moral or immoral is based directly off of what the Quran says.
Yeah, but okay, I just don't know what the difference is, because like when you said, what's the difference? What difference do you see, or like the impact it has on society? Because that's what I'm thinking of as a difference.
I always think, and I guess it's a Western concept, but it's really like a freedom. Like I would want to live because, and I guess this isn't. Well, we're talking about it a bit later in the episode, but the difference is, as you said, like we're becoming more and more global. So even like in Qatar, Doha, they've had to adapt to maybe. Okay, there are expats living here. They have a different set of beliefs, a different morality. How can we adapt to their belief system? And that's more my problem with it, where not everyone is Christian or
that's what I was gonna ask,
or Muslim or Buddhist or whatever. So how can we find a common ground on what is moral and immoral?
I feel like no matter what, there's one side that's gonna have to adapt to the other.
Yeah.
And in countries like that, I feel like when you're going, you already approach it with a certain like attention to detail. Like you'll try to inform yourself on like what's considered normal, not normal, things that where you're coming from might be considered okay. They won't be.
I think you would think that, right? Because I feel like that's right, but I don't think everybody's like that, unfortunately. And not everybody's willing to adapt to different cultures.
The thing is, it's also within their liberty not to adapt. Like
I disagree, but
you disagree. Let's talk about it. That's what makes it fun. The thing is, it's like, for example, if like, for example, PDA is frowned upon, right? Like if you're not married to the woman that you're with, you're not going to be holding hands. And if you know that you want to hold hands with your wife in public or with your girlfriend in public, or maybe do other things that they do in the middle of Paris that really can't be done in the rest of the world, you know that, okay, I want to do those things in Doha, I can't, and Qatar, I can't. Like, you're not going to go there with the expectation of making out in public, you know?
Yeah, but...
Or do you think that you should have the liberty to?
I think you should respect the country you go to, and I think that's the person that's visiting the country is the person adapting. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
Um,
But would you consider
what?
their set of values immoral?
We're not here to say it's right or wrong.
It's not about what's right or wrong, but thing is, what's the difference between adapting to their morals that are based off religion and adapting to the laws of society that are based off a country that is more secular?
Yeah.
Either way, you're gonna have to adapt.
Somebody has
the
to
laws in France aren't
And you don't.
necessarily the same as the laws in, I don't know, some other secular country.
Yeah.
Because I was
But
gonna
either way,
ask.
you're gonna have to respect them.
I was gonna ask, like, how fair is it? Because let's say we live in a world that actually is ruled in the moral sense by religion, right? Is it fair to people that don't believe in a God, the people that don't believe in a religion, to follow those sets of morals? And that's from the day they're born, right? Is it fair to them? I don't know. I don't think so, actually. Like, I don't know what I'm saying. I don't know. I'm scared, but I don't think.
I'm scared.
I don't think it is. And making people feel bad because, I'm talking about Christianism. What? Christianity. My bad. Oh my God.
Christian.
I don't know what I'm saying.
No, it's all good.
But I'm just like, there's sets of rules and morals that religion has portrayed, and I know that if people do something outside of that box, they can be criticized. I'm gonna go with basic example that everybody knows about: sex before marriage. A
Sorry,
lot.
what is that? I don't really.
I don't know either. That's what I heard on the internet. I saw
I
it
heard
out
people
there.
do that.
Yeah, like-
I don't really know what it is, but
what is that?
so
you-
from what I heard,
You're telling me.
it's when the seagull brings a baby.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
That makes
No, but like, is it right to live in a society if you don't believe in a God that makes you feel bad for doing that, even though you don't believe with those values? I don't know, but it must be weird to live in a society like that when you don't. Not me, cause but
Because you're.
but I know
'Cause-
people. I know people. But yeah,
Let's say you walk into a crowded room full of people from different countries with different identities, with different faiths. Do you expect them to share your moral code? Should they? That's one of the big challenges we're faced with today. You see, certain countries might value personal freedom over everything, while others might see freedom as being selfish. In some countries, honesty is the law, and honesty is what they value the most, while in other countries, they might emphasize saving face a bit more. So in today's video, what we're trying to explore is whether moral diversity is necessary or dangerous. Are there certain values, intrinsic values, that transcend borders, like kindness or justice? Or are we all just navigating life with incompatible compasses?
yeah.
I guess what we want to explore now is, do we all need the same morality, And as Joseph say, I don't know why I say it like that. As Jose just mentioned, like some communities, some cultures really value like community, right? Others value like it's a more individualistic approach, and what that brings in terms of morality is also very interesting. Like, I think, for example, in the US, which I consider to be a pretty individualistic society, some actions would be justified by saying, oh yeah, but I did it for me, like, it was important for me, and blah, blah, blah. While, for example, you take a more communitarian society, it would be more important, like, oh, it was for my family, it was for my friends. That is going to be much more valuable and much more moral in society.
You know what's really interesting? I think I personally grew up with two different sets of values and morals. What you said, coming from Angola, very community, very like you should help the other person in front of you before you help yourself. And then having also the European and American experience where it's more individualistic, individualistic, and it's like, no, you should help yourself. Like, you should do whatever is right for you. And at times it's very conflicting. It's like, what do I do here? Do I think about the person that's next to me first? Do I think about myself? And I don't necessarily know. And so I guess my question for you is like, when was the last time you had a conflict, where like, you don't know like you know what the right decision is, but you don't necessarily go with it just because it's conflicting.
Good question.
What hard to
And,
answer. I know.
yeah,
The last
a
time.
precise example. That's hard to find.
I don't even have one myself. But like, just keep it in your heads, and if you have it, you can interrupt the conversation and just bring it back.
All
Okay.
right.
But yeah.
But I guess to add on to that point,
Yeah.
I guess that brings us to like moral diversity, right? Like, I guess a morality based off of individualistic values and a morality based off of maybe like communitarian values. First off, do you think like it's an advantage to have different sets of moralities, or is it simply like I guess a necessary evil, if we can call it that?
I wouldn't say it's a necessary evil. I think it's an unfortunate isn't the right word, but it's a
Would you say it's dangerous?
reality of the world. I think it's an inevitable reality, unless one day we're all dominated by one fucking king that takes over all the countries somehow. I feel like no matter what, different cultures, different countries are always going to have their own different set of rules that will govern and differ from different countries. You know, for example, North Korea, if you look at their set of rules and compare it to where we grew up, or France, obviously to us it'll look immoral, and I feel like for the whole world it kind of is immoral. But when is that really going to change? What can you really do about it? You know?
Yeah, I get where you're coming from.
Yeah.
But like, do you not think that the people? I mean, I don't know what it would be to grow up in North Korea, right? But do you think if they were to then to live in a different society and then come back, do you think they would be like, okay, I don't think this is the most like moral or best situation to live in?
Absolutely.
So wouldn't
Why'd
you
you
say
say,
then
like, absolutely?
objectively?
There are some moral codes
Yeah.
that are better than others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, we're not here to say what's right or what's wrong.
No. I mean, I do believe there are certain morals that are more important and kind of invaluable to human society. Like, I think we mentioned it in one of the monologues, but kindness, justice, those are things that are just, that are kind of fundamental rights that there have been wars and protests that fought over those rights and that made the world an undoubtedly better place because of what happened.
Mm.
And I feel like those fundamental values, no matter what, a society that doesn't have them can never truly be, I mean, kind of the peak or morally fair place, you know?
Yeah. Like justice to me is an interesting one because like it's one that you see where you can truly see the values of a society. Like for example, the US since I mean it's a capitalist country, it's I guess the most capitalist country, right? How they it's funny to me how a lot of the times how they kind of define justice is also based off of money and like how much do you have to pay
Yeah.
or how much is bail and stuff like that, and that's where they define justice. While in other countries, you can pay whatever the fuck you want. You're not gonna get the
You're
fuck
going
out
down,
of
right?
it.
Yeah,
Yeah. And I think like justice, yeah, you're right in the sense that it is like a common value in the sense that we all want justice. But like,
But what is
means
justice?
what
Yeah.
is yeah, like
I
how
think
do
we
you
had
get
this
there?
debate the other day.
What do you?
I forgot which context it was in, but it was about if somebody hurts your family or something like that.
Was it All American? No.
Was it
Was
about
it?
the death penalty? Maybe?
I forgot what it was. I don't know exactly what. So if you do remember, interrupt me. but-
I think if
Yeah.
I'm remembering correctly, we were watching All American on Max. I don't know why I'm shouting on Max, but so essentially in this episode they do like a senior prank where they go and like steal the trophy from the other high school, and then like they kind of set off the water thing and it ruins
It destroys
the
part of
other
the school.
school's high school gym. And basically, like, they need to find somebody to blame. And one of the friends says, "Oh, it was me. because since he was the most popular, like he knew that he wouldn't suffer the same consequences as other people. I was saying that shit was dumb as fuck because he was like risking not getting a diploma from the high school, like being suspended, and that would also mean that he would lose
Lose
all his
scholarships, things like
scholarships to the D1 schools and stuff like that, which was his dream and his family's dream. And so I was like, nah, that shit was hard as fuck.
Low key, I ain't gonna cat, bro.
No, I just think that's moral, you know?
To me, that's stupid.
How is that moral?
Because you're helping, once again, it comes, I guess, from my background, but you're helping the person next to you.
You're helping the person next to you, but the only reason you can help the person next to you is that you know that you have an unfair advantage.
Yeah, but it's taking that unfair advantage and using it to favor the other person. Isn't that moral and fair? Because he's taking that advantage to help somebody else.
I don't know.
We disagreed
Yeah,
completely on
we
this one,
disagreed
but-
completely. But it was just because, bro, imagine for 17 years of your life, you've been working towards this. Your family has invested so much time, energy, money to making sure you can get these offers. And you're going to go down off of some other stupid decision from another guy. Nah, bro, I'm sorry. Own up to your actions. If you're a good friend, you would own up to what you did and not let me take the fall for what the fuck you did.
And I think that's the right thing to do.
There can be two moral
Exactly, that was my point.
And
Yeah.
that very, speaking of morality,
That's the whole point of it.
fair enough. But I actually saw an interesting post today. I forgot the country specifically. I think it was Finland. But they said that basically when for speeding, they don't have a fixed price for the ticket you get when you're caught speeding. It depends on your income, because for a poor person, if you get a 50 euro fine, that's a huge deal. For a rich person, if you get a 50 euro fine, nothing is really stopping you from doing it again, because it's 50 euros. It's nothing to you. So basically, you could get $100,000 fine just for speeding. Yeah.
Golly.
And so the kind of justice is based off your
Equity.
Isn't
position.
that's what I was going to say. It's not equality, it's equity.
It's
Yeah.
it's trying to find a proper balance to kind of.
That's dope as fuck.
It is. I like
I
that.
found that pretty interesting, actually, because here the guy uses popularity to get out of trouble. I mean, out of trouble.
Yeah.
He
To
didn't
get
do it.
less
Yeah.
trouble than someone else would, but with a system that kind of evaluates punishment or advantages based off your position. I feel like that could be a way to
That's actually a dope solution.
balance it
Shout
out,
out
you know?
Finland, man.
Do you think that different moralities can coexist peacefully?
No.
I
No.
think it's very complicated.
What do you think makes it so complicated? Or what makes it so complicated first, but then what do you think can be done to make sure they live peacefully?
To answer you, go ahead if you have something.
I would say there's inherent values and moral codes that some people live by that other people are completely opposed to and just cannot fathom, I guess. And it's just the way we were all raised in our environment and our culture. But like, I mean, going back to Iran, for example, I have a friend, a woman who is from there, and it's a country where women kind of have a certain set of rules and laws that they have to obey that differ from those that men have to obey, right? And that for us is unfathomable, the way we grew up.
Yeah.
Especially in France, like equality, feminism, and
Yeah.
all of that. And to us, it's like, obviously, we're not here to judge, but to us, it's, unfair. I'd like to believe that's what we feel like. It's unfair. It's not normal. It's whatever. But that's how it is in their society. That's how they live. That's how they've always been. But I also know that there are women, and like I said, I have a friend who doesn't necessarily feel comfortable going back because even she doesn't think that's, morally correct.
Yeah.
And so I don't feel like I could properly adapt or interact like in a fair way with people that actually truly
Have a different set of, like a different moral framework.
like intrinsically,
I mean, very simply, how do you talk to a racist? Like,
Say I'm half you. No, yeah.
did he say I'm half you?
Act racist yourself, bro.
Hey, my God, those. Ugh.
I'd love to be racist.
Oh, it'd be so fun. We should interview. We should interview a racist poet. That would be funny. That would be funny.
Next second.
Yeah, let's
No,
get
I
a
just
racist
I just
on,
wanted to say, like, to what he was saying. I feel like morality, and that's the whole point of this, I guess, is very subjective. Like, what's moral to you isn't moral to him. In this case, a lot of things probably coincide, but what's moral to somebody isn't moral to somebody else. And an example that I have, which I think is a very good and touchy example, is cheating.
Well, I think that's moral.
You think what, Andy?
Huh? I grew up as an Angolan. What do you want?
What do you mean Angola? Angolans do not cheat. What are you talking about?
So we're just gonna lie?
That's not part of his moral code. Lying is just so easy.
Stay away from Angolan.
Hey,
man.
Not about hey, don't do that.
Whoa. First off, we're not going to be putting out this reputation.
We already have this reputation.
We do, bro. Everywhere. When I say I'm Angolan,
we
they say,
don't need
oh,
to
so you
keep
cheat.
perpetuating this narrative, okay? We're going to change
My
it.
moral code it forces me to be honest. All right, honesty is something I truly value, and so I'm not gonna stand here and lie. To these.
Your phone's gonna fall.
You were taking me at the table. Motherfucker.
No, so not Angola. Let's make men in the world cheat, okay?
Whoa! What?
Stop. And
Women do. Okay.
yes, but whatever. And I know that the cause of that to a lot of men is because they saw their parents cheat and they just replicate it, whether because they think it's normal or because they think it's the right thing. I don't know. It's their morals. They're good with that, right?
Yep.
But a woman that gets in a relationship with this man is expecting a healthy relationship, something good. It's something,
I don't know why, but
yeah, something that doesn't involve cheating.
why did you zone out?
I was imagining something.
Gets cheated on.
Brought back deep thoughts.
Are you good? Are you good?
Promise.
Gets cheated on. Like, it's moral to him, not moral to her, and that cannot coincide. You know?
Yeah, I think low-key they know what they're doing is immoral. But, you know, different
Hey,
topic.
That's different topic. Different
yeah,
day.
yeah.
But yeah.
Dope.
On the topic of cheating, I think it's interesting how like we were comparing different cultures and countries and how morality can affect kind of what the norm is. And it's interesting that even something like cheating, which I think is universally seen as
Bad.
not universally. No,
universally.
I think
Oh,
we
there are
could-
certain societies where you can have like a
That's not cheating.
Oh.
Fair enough.
That's just a polyamorous relationship. That's what you should do if you want to have multiple partners.
A one-way polyamorous
The thing is, if they're all okay with it, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it.
Fair
Yeah,
enough.
what were
Fair
you gonna
enough.
say? Go ahead.
I was gonna say in many countries, cheating is considered wrong, right? Objectively. And yet even the way people cheat and how it's perceived can vary so much based off a country's culture and moral code. Like for example, in Angola, cheating is kind of often an open secret where a lot of men, whether husbands or just boyfriends or whatever,
Keep up with that.
it's not rare to see a man that kind of cheats and talks about very vulgar subjects rather openly.
Yeah.
As opposed to like France and I think in Angola it's kind of normalized because, I mean, since everyone does it at this point, it's become kind of the norm. A lot. Okay. Stop being so defensive, bro.
I'll just say you can't speak away.
As
Do
opposed
you
to in
cheat?
France,
No,
where-
I'm single as shit. You're dating, so you are too.
as opposed to in France, where cheating is also seen as something wrong, but I feel like it's actually seen as something wrong. Like it's a lot more discreet. Like I don't feel like guys are gonna meet up and talk about what they did with their mistress last night. You know, when they get caught, it's actually a bad thing, and it actually might ruin their lives and cause divorces and blah blah blah. And it's interesting how even the same concept can have a different impact and perception based off the country and how it's viewed morally, like the impact it has.
Yep.
Would that imply that morality has layers to it in a certain extent? Like something
Yeah.
bad can be bad in multiple places, but
How bad
how bad it is
And
varies as well.
how bad it is, and like the consequences, and how
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
viewed also. Yeah,
That's
true.
interesting. I don't know how we could develop into that, but it's just interesting that morality could have layers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what's one thing that's making it harder? AI's next segment.
Here's the thing, we're no longer the only ones making ethical decisions. Technology, from algorithms to AI, are making decisions on our behalf. Who gets hired, who gets a loan, who gets flagged for being a threat. And it's not just about data, it's the values embedded in the code. In this segment, we want to explore morality in the digital age. If machines make ethical decisions, who programs their sense of right or wrong? Are we moving towards moral clarity or moral outsourcing? And more importantly, how do we program tech to represent our values?
I remember first year of uni, we had ethics for business, and it was super interesting because one of the first case studies we had, I believe, was for Mercedes, but essentially it was a self-driving car, right? And I don't know if you guys know I think it's the train dilemma. I'm not sure. If
Yeah, I do.
Oh yeah,
It's
the one with
when
two paths.
you have the choice to
Yeah.
push the lever to
Exactly. So the teacher started off with that example where like there's one person on one side and then three people on one side. What is the ethical decision to make? Do you not pull the lever at all? Do you just let the train run its normal track and maybe that kills the three people? Do you choose to pull the lever, but then now you are responsible for killing that one person? Do you jump in front of the train? Do you sacrifice yourself to stop the train, I guess, from moving at all? And then he thought like this example was far-fetched because it's a hypothetical that is commonly used to make us think about what is ethical or not. So then he brought this case study of Mercedes, and this is something that they were actually testing, right? So if a self-driving car comes, right, and then there's like an object, maybe a child or just like something in front of it, right? Does it choose to save the driver, meaning maybe run over this child and not run into the wall? Or does it choose to run into the wall and save this child? And how do you program the car to make that decision? And we had to spend like an hour trying to figure out, like, as a business, what should we do? How can we program it to try to make it as safe as possible? Mercedes came out with it and said that they would keep the driver safe.
That makes sense.
So that means that they would
Kill
run
a
over.
baby.
But it makes sense.
I'm not saying that, Mercedes. Please let me buy one of your cars. But it does really make you think, like, okay, so we're like more and more with the impact and with the how common tech is becoming in our daily lives, right? Even with TikTok, how do we make sure that these things are moral? Like TikTok, especially with children, right? Like I see it in my little cousins and stuff like that. Like sometimes you catch them watching some things, and you're like, how the hell did the algorithm let you watch this as a 7-year-old?
I'm just gonna put it out there. It's different because it wasn't an algorithm back then when we were younger, but I was exposed to things in the internet when I was way too young to see them. I'm not gonna mention exactly what it was, but no, but that to say that now with AI, I just feel like it's even more dangerous, and with algorithms and things like that. You're exposed to things at different ages because everybody lies in social media things. You never say you're 10, you say you're 25, and the algorithm gives you things for 25-year-olds, and we're now. Who's to blame, you know?
Yeah.
Because it's a kid saying he's 25. Like, he has no goddamn conscience. And the software companies aren't doing much to protect it. So what the hell do you do? Whose fault is it?
Yeah. Like Australia, for example, like currently, they're pushing for age verification on all social media and a lot of text. So like imagine if you want to have TikTok, you'll have to put your ID proving that you're over 18 to be able to use the app, or some other like tech. I think there's even been some countries that have thought about like for you to buy certain tech, you need to have a certain age,
Oh,
which could
isn't
be
bad, yeah.
interesting. Or like maybe not buy, but like maybe a kid won't be able to have an iPad, stuff like that, or a limited version of the iPad.
These iPad kids are getting out of hand, bro.
No, but
I was
truly,
one.
nice. I was one.
I can tell. But
I had
go on,
yeah, all good. I looked it up really quick, and I found one really disturbing thing that I'm gonna bring up. And to bring that up, I'm just gonna talk about the algorithm bias. Like, problem with the algorithm, I feel like, is it's created by somebody, and that somebody has a bias, like everybody else. And so, wouldn't that algorithm technically follow that same bias? Like, I just found something, a research. I don't know how accurate it is. I'll look it up after and put it on screen. But saying that people of color have a chance, like the face, what's it called?
Face recognition.
Face recognition fails 100 times more for colored people than for white people. And so,
Nice.
is that racism? Is that
No, it
like
is.
like
But-
what do you call that?
but the thing
and who is
is-
to blame?
as you said, like tech is also really just a representation of humans. Even like in medicine, a lot of the trials that were made on like Caucasian people,
Yeah.
Westerners, and so when they're applied to then like people of color and stuff like that, it doesn't always have the exact same results. And so like for tech, especially AI, where it's just trained on like a database, if the database has biases, as you said, then what it will spit out directly will also have biases. On the opposite hand, also like if you train the model properly, it may have less biases than a human. Like for example, I don't know if it does or doesn't, right? But for companies now, they use a lot of AI to like scan through the CVs.
Exactly.
And like before, right? If you had a picture, somebody could see that picture and they see maybe what ethnicity you are, and they directly have biases, and you may not get the job. But algorithm really will only be scanning the keywords and stuff like that. And don't get me wrong, maybe then it'll just lead you to the second interview with somebody who's gonna have the bias. What?
Go ahead.
What you said. you were getting there.
The second interview.
Yeah.
But you already got past the first break, so it's good.
Round
Pow.
one.
Yeah, it happened
Round
to
one.
you. You got punched in the face.
Whoa.
You got first through the AI, and then the boss saw you. He was like, "Yeah, you're too African for me." I'm not gonna state the company, but it happened.
What?
And not only that, bro. Like, even an AI, even like ChatGPT nowadays, if you can put a picture and ask it what race am I, it'll guess because of your facial traits, because of the image.
Yeah, but that's not
And so-
racist.
And so, if a company has a racist CEO, the company can put in the AI that, avoid this type of people.
Dang.
Like,
Yeah, but then that would be kind of illegal.
That's yeah.
I'm just saying.
I mean, yeah.
But yeah,
I feel like at that point we also have to think about like, since we're talking about companies, their main goal and the only goal
it's to
is
make money,
profits.
and that's another
That's the
thing.
real problem.
Profits. And that's when you're going back to morality. Like, what is the point where the damage you're putting on society outweighs like the profits, and at what point should there maybe be a system where we can intervene or stop something from happening? Because I've been thinking about the guy that invented the infinite scroll on Instagram, I believe was the first platform to use it. And he actually came out and publicly apologized for his creation, because it was literally made just to make you spend as much time as possible without leaving on the social media. Like, it's literally the infinite scroll. Like, instead of reaching a point where it won't go down, or it's loading to go down and it'll give you like a microsecond to think about, oh, maybe I should do something else, it'll just keep going and keep making them profits.
What's even worse with this is you're only fed one type of content, whatever you believe in. And it just enhances that perspective, making you push anything else, push away anything else, which horrible. But I'll let you keep going.
And not only, sorry to cut you both off, but like sometimes it's what you believe, but sometimes what even catches your attention the most is things that you absolutely hate.
Yeah.
And so I know that I have people around me that like their feed is like the direct opposite of what they believe, but they get so enraged by it that
They
they're just
comment,
and so the algorithm keeps feeding them that, and I'm like,
That's not.
this is not like, and that's the problem.
And that
it doesn't
creates
actually
extremes.
yeah,
right?
it does. And there's this really good documentary called The Social Dilemma on Netflix. If you guys haven't seen it, go check it out. It portrays this, what we're talking about, perfectly. And it creates these biases. And as you said, like, I guess the hard part is to define, okay, what level of regulation do we need from governments on AI, on algorithms, on social media and tech, to find that balance? Like, should, for example, TikTok even exist? Is it actually like
left TikTok?
no,
man.
TikTok, Instagram, whatever it is, like in the way that they exist currently? I'm not saying they
No, I know,
don't
I'm
need to
kidding.
exist in any shape, way, or in any form, but like the way that it exists right now,
yeah.
should it exist? Is it actually a net positive to society?
I just want to say, because this is what I wanted to bring up. I found something hella disturbing, bro. Grief bots? What the hell is that? If you lose somebody dies in your family, whatever, you can insert to that chat all the messages, emails, pictures, anything of that person, and it'll just, like, you can text it, and it'll
That should be illegal.
it'll text you like it was the person.
You just made me think.
Holy crap, Black Mirror, bro.
Exactly. There's an
What the
episode
hell?
of Black Mirror where you can, like, when you lose someone, you can put like a chip on your head, and it'll enhance all your memories of that person. Like, if you look at a picture, you'll enter the picture and be talking and interacting and imagining that person. And
That look
like,
sounds fun.
wow, it's
But this is just disturbing.
No,
But yeah.
it's just I saw on the podcast of Ezra Klein where they created a bot or a AI agent, I believe, and this needs to be fact checked. I think it's called Famify or something, where it's just a bunch of AI chat bots that pretend to be your friends. Like kids in school that don't have friends,
That's
they just create an account
insane.
and they have like digital
I don't
friends that
even-
are fully
bro.
AI.
I'm flabbergasted. I don't even know how to connect this with immorality anymore. It's just wrong. What the hell?
But
that's
that's
is it wrong because it's kids that can't make friends, and if that makes them feel right.
So
can
AI,
we really say it's
I'm not here to
wrong?
judge.
we can't do all those segments, but that's where I thought about desire. Like morality is very close to desire, right?
Oh, yeah, you were talking about how like the extremes that it can show. I feel like people often get super, because you're really only exposed to the extremes because that's what gets engagement, that's what gets people to comment. I feel like people don't realize how far it can actually go on social media. Like a normal person probably won't take their time to comment on a video because they either
better
don't
shit
care
to
that
do,
much or they're like, oh, this guy's stupid. Like, I'm not going to comment. The people that actually comment and debate and fight on social media
Extremists.
are the extremes, and that's what we're most exposed to. And I feel like a lot of people base their reality off of that,
Of the world, but like, yeah,
but that is not the reality
at all. Like I know not so many people, but like people from both sides, like right, left, and you can speak to somebody that is like right winged. And they're not extreme at all. Like they're
Yeah.
conservative in some
Yeah,
aspects of their
exactly.
life. You're like, that's actually a fair opinion, you know? Like I get it, and it's not anything crazy. And also, like on the other side,
yeah.
like you see some things on the left, you're like, buddy, but yeah,
But yeah. And sorry, I know you want to get to the next section,
But
but
just some causes.
yeah, the last thing I was gonna say is going back to companies and their goal is to make money. A company let's say an oil company, right? Their operation is directly polluting the world. But if they just stop, how many millions of people lose their jobs, and from just like that, don't have money to feed their families? is it immoral to ask of a company to simply stop their operations because it's screwing the world? I don't know. But I just want to
But
bring it up.
at the end, it
Go
would
ahead.
be a net negative. If people are losing their jobs and they can't feed their family, and then like the whole economy goes
So that
down,
makes it right.
it
We're gonna
makes-
figure that out in the next section.
We live in a time of abundance, a world where you can literally get anything in minutes, from food to shows to people. But here's the paradox. Despite having more choices than ever, we feel more unsatisfied than ever. Why? On this segment, we're going to explore the idea of desire, what it means to want, to get, and to be left unsatisfied. Are we chasing fulfillment through consumption, or are we just addicted to the chase itself? But most importantly, what does it take to feel fulfilled?
Morality is kind of very closely related to desire. I feel like it's our way of finding fulfillment in our lives, right? And that's why, like, when we were talking about AI, and you said, I mean, if a kid has only AI digital friends and that's his escape and that makes him happy, and he's not hurting anybody else, is that actually immoral? Maybe it's not a way to live, and I guess you can debate that, but is it immoral? That's a very interesting question. And then it got me thinking, like, to what level should our desires always be fulfilled? Should we be able to live in a world where every desire we have is instantly gratified?
That's interesting because I think to this point in humanity, that's what we've been trying to do. Delivery apps, social media. We're just trying to constantly be able
Make
to be
life
fulfilled,
easier.
make life easier. But maybe you're right. Maybe that's not the point. Maybe life is supposed to be tough at times. You're supposed to cry. But I don't, that's the problem. I generally don't know if it's right or wrong. Because what I usually tell myself is, as long as you're not hurting anybody, it's all right. But I don't know, man. I'm tired. Just say whatever you have to say.
I mean, from what I saw, right? There's kind of people often put desire and fulfillment together, right? It's like normally if you desire something, you get it, you should be fulfilled. Thing is, for example, we desire a lot of things, right?
Mhm.
We lust over a lot of things. But will that actually bring us fulfillment? That's a different question. Let's say like you've been wanting like this burger, you know, this fat juicy ass
Also
burger.
thinking about food.
What the fuck?
We're just tired. We're tired.
Whoa, that is foul. Yeah, you just want like a burger, whatever, and then like you eat it. You're technically like you fulfilled your desire, and then you feel like shit because you just ate this burger and it's greasy as hell. And so I guess what's interesting about morality, or I guess desire, is that we don't actually often know what will bring us true fulfillment.
That's interesting.
Yeah, have you ever had like a super big desire and you weren't fulfilled?
Yeah, I want money.
I feel like, and this is just a philosophy I live by. Kind of, I think in order to be fulfilled, you can never have everything you want in life, because then nothing really feels special anymore. If whenever you want something, you can have it just like that, you're not gonna feel motivated to really try anything in life. You're not gonna have a true passion. I feel like the whole point of life in general is to go after the things that we want. And just from a moral point of view, to me, having everything in life is not a realistic goal and not something I'd actually ever want to obtain.
Really?
Yeah.
So everything you want, you don't want it all.
No.
No, I get what he means. Like
I'm saying I always want something
that is
to
almost
desire,
unachievable.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like for
That's
example,
fair.
I think why partially, and I'll speak for myself. Partially, I want like goals that are kind of super ambitious and whatever. I actually don't know if I'll ever get there. Hopefully, I dream of it. But like, what makes it so fun is the fact that not that I can't get there, but it's like the journey, the me chasing it. That's
You know
what
what's
makes it super
weird?
fun.
I agree, but I feel like most of our goals have a good end or a great end. Like we usually want to help, and our goals are like our companies or whatever we have in mind is to help.
Yeah.
Right. So that's moral. But then imagine we make a lot of money out of it. Is it moral for you to have $10 million in your bank account when somebody else?
It's very
damn, it
moral.
is.
When somebody else is out there in the streets. But why is it moral? Because you help more people than them?
Yep. No,
I don't know.
no, I'm kidding.
That is a whole other topic. Good question.
I mean, it is moral. Like, if you worked for
Yeah,
that
but
money.
first of all, you didn't start with the same chances and with the same opportunities. So maybe the person simply didn't have the opportunities to get where you were.
Yeah,
One of the points we
absolutely.
talked about was that life is just not fair. Some people have certain advantages that will give them special treatment that other people won't have, and the way you use it is what matters, not
Okay.
necessarily having it. That's how.
And also,
I-
morality is communal. Like, if as a society you were to say that, okay, yeah, you having 10 million and him having nothing, that is immoral, then I guess it would be immoral.
So, the little quick question to wrap it up: what do you think of people that say Elon Musk could end world hunger? No, like really simple. Because yeah, you're right.
No, he can't.
Oh well.
No, that's just facts. Like,
No, I know, but I'm saying like
no,
he
no, no,
could-
no, no,
What
no,
I'm
no,
saying,
don't try to justify
he-
this.
No,
people.
wait.
Nah. No, let's
he
have
can't
the
end
talk.
world hunger, but he can give all his billions to people.
It would be
and to
that.
charity.
That's what people are saying. That would solve world
No, it
world
wouldn't.
hunger.
That we literally know it
So
wouldn't.
why are you trying to say he
Because that's
can
what
give
people-
all his money and there would still be starving people in the world? Because it's not about the actual money. Okay, it's about misgovernance of everything in a lot of countries. Okay, and
Yes.
so you could give them whole lot of
Stop
money,
taking it
and
so
you would just see
literally.
a whole lot more private islands. Okay, that money
true.
would not go to
That's
the
true.
kids.
Yeah, no.
But anyways,
conclusion from a financial point of view.
Yes.
Possibly, maybe. But is it going to be a long-standing solution? Definitely not. Unless from a societal point of view, from a moral point of view, the way things are run in the world actually change drastically.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
It's very good.
Yeah.
and to end it off of this I can't really pronounce it that well, so stay with me. But according to many philosophers, there are two ways to live life. Okay, there's what you call eudaimonia and hedonia. Sorry. So the first word I said,
He doesn't even know it.
eudaimonia, refers to a life of virtue, of meaning, so of true purpose, where I guess you're being altruistic. And the second part of hedonia really focuses on pleasure and just following, I guess, desire,
Is that where hedonism comes from?
probably. Or I don't know which one came first. But,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but so to find true fulfillment in your life, it's like the perfect middle between purpose and meaning and living a life of pleasure. So if you guys are trying to be fulfilled in your life, try to look for things that do give you a certain pleasure, but that also can give you that purpose and that meaning that you're looking for. Thank you for
Wait,
listening. Right?
I wanted to do a quick experiment. Let's AI define morality and conclude the video because I'm lazy today. So yeah.
So how we
Give me a
just
second.
criticize
Exactly.
about the biases
Exactly.
of morality.
Oh, you're lucky. Oh no. Hey chat. Can you define morality and conclude our podcast for us, please?
Hope it doesn't work.
It's not working.
Perfeito. Because bots will never be as good as humans.
Well, conclusion is
Yeah.
chat is useless. But I look you
No,
want
actually, do it.
Hey, chat, can you please define morality and conclude this podcast for me?
Of course. Let's define morality and then conclude the podcast with a thoughtful wrap-up. Okay. Definition of morality. As we reflect on everything we've discussed, let's anchor ourselves with a clear definition. Morality is the set of principles or values that help us distinguish right from wrong and guide our behavior. It's the compass that individuals and societies use to navigate ethical questions and make decisions about how to live well together. Now, what have we uncovered today? We've seen that morality isn't a fixed concept. It evolves, just like we do. From its deep roots in religion to the complexities of our modern tech-driven world, our moral frameworks are constantly being challenged and redefined. We've also discovered that while we may not all share the same moral code, there are universal themes like empathy, fairness, and the pursuit of a meaningful life that resonate across cultures. And perhaps the quest for the perfect human isn't about flawlessness, but about striving for a balance of virtues, self-awareness, and growth. It's about rethinking our assumptions and continuing to evolve.
We said that.
Thank you for joining us on this journey. Keep questioning, keep reflecting, and most importantly, keep rethinking.
Yes,
I like that. On that note, guys, thank you so much for joining us today. This is a Rethink podcast. Hope you got to rethink a bit today. See ya.
See ya.
See ya.